When it comes to stringed instruments in our metal productions using only MIDI-based instruments, they can sound very artificial if you don't go into detail and start editing the velocities and articulations to get the most out of the performance. And then guitars. This is really the instrument that really can sound quite artificial in a production when using MIDI. So I'm going to show you how you can really get these things to sound like real instruments by going into the instrument and using the different types of articulations to get more detail, expression, and dynamics from the instrument. And for the guitars, I'm going to be using the Jar Master by Otter Audio. Now, I actually worked on this instrument. I collaborated with Otter Audio and I sampled this instrument, which is a sampling of the Squier Jazz Master Baritone, which is an extended scale guitar which can tune really low. Because a lot of modern metal productions are pushing that sort of tuning of the guitar and seeing how low you can go. So this is a great instrument where you can go really low. Plus it has some really nice articulations that I've built up that can show you how you can use these to get some more expression and some interest in the production. Let's talk about your notes and your chords on guitar, especially with virtual guitars and metal. But before getting into that, I just want to show you that we're using this performance master patch over here, and these notes show the different velocities. So the highest velocity is over here, the lowest velocity is here. So if I'm playing back in the middle here, I'm getting sustains. If I move up, I'm getting your chugs and palm mutes. If I go all the way up, I'm getting some dead mutes there. And at the highest velocity, I'm getting my pinched harmonics. So I'll show you that in a sec. So I'm just going to close this down. And I've got a very simple guitar line over here, just using some single notes. If I just play it back. And what I find really works well with MIDI guitars is to make sure that your notes are playing a legato, meaning that this note will play and play right to the end of the next note. For example, if I just select all these notes and I just shift them over a bit, it's going to sound a bit unnatural. So what I've done is I've made a key command for MIDI, and then under functions, and then for legato, I've assigned a key command for this for Control-Shift-L to make legato mode. So I'll just select those two, do that shortcut key, and there I'm getting quick legato with those notes going into the other notes. So it just makes a much smoother performance when you're playing through. So if I play back again, and here we're using single notes. So if you look at the velocities, I did record this in with a MIDI controller keyboard, but if I had to just draw in the line like this, a straight line, and just play that in, it's sounding very unnatural, where I can go in and edit the velocities to make it sound more natural. So if I'm playing back like this, I'm just going to play that second note a bit softer. So we've got this. So you're just getting a bit more natural changes with the velocities. But I think those are a bit low, so I'm just going to bring them up slightly so it's not so drastic. Now, as I mentioned with the performance patch, you've got low velocities for palm mutes and pinch harmonics and dead mutes. So I can, for example, lasso around these notes, go to the velocities over here and then drop them. And now I've got palm mutes or chugs. Likewise, if I bring them all the way down, I've got some dead mutes over here. And then all the way up, I've got pinched harmonics. So just using velocities, you can get a lot of expression out of a guitar instrument. And a lot of the other virtual guitar products have the same functionality, where you're using velocities to trigger different articulations. Now let's talk about single notes versus chords. So over here, I've just got a single note that's playing for the guitars. Now, if we want to do a power chord, which is a fifth chord, you're just taking these notes and pushing them up 7 semitones, so making a duplicate 7 semitones up higher. So this will go up to E. So now we've got some power chords. And you can also add in an octave from the root note. So if we go up to A, you've got the root, the fifth, and an octave up. And if I wanted all of these to be playing palm mutes, I can just drag them down so they've got low velocities. And if you want to get some classic dissonance with your productions, instead of having your power chords over here, you just take that root note, step it up a semitone, and you get that 1-0-0 dissonant chord. So as you can see with guitars, we're not just dealing with single notes, we're actually dealing with chords and how you can deal with them with different types of articulations like sustains and palm mutes. Next, we're going to start seeing other types of articulations that can help give our guitars way more detail and interest in our modern metal productions. So let's get into some more guitar editing and how we can take our virtual guitars and make them more expressive. I'm using this instrument, which is the Jar Master by Otto Audio, and you've got your articulations here. For now, I'm just sticking with the master, which is the main performance patch. And the reason I want to do that is because what you've got is different articulation sets on different velocities. So if I play here, I've got sustains. If I go lower up in the velocity, I've got chugs. And then over here, you got some dead mutes. And then all the way at the top, I've got some pinched harmonics. And most of the virtual guitar libraries out there are the same, where they've got one patch where you've got your sustains and your palm mutes or chugs on one articulation. And the reason for this is that it's really easy to edit these patches. So let me show you the guitar piece that we're going to be using, and then I'll show you how we can edit these velocities to get more expressiveness in the performance. So I'm going to play back. So as you can see, we've got some single notes over here and then some chords, but it's sounding a bit artificial. It doesn't really sound like a guitar. So what I want to do is take some of these notes and take them from sustain and move them down to palm mutes. For example, if I select this note and shake this down, we've got some palm mutes there. So what I want to do is select some notes. I want to select this guy here, that. So basically these notes just before other sections. And I want to use the scaling velocity to scale these down so that they're now palm mutes. Already that's sounding a lot better. And for this end section, I'm going to take this, make that a palm mute down over here. And for these chords, I'm leaving these as sustains and changing these selections over here to palm mutes. So now if we play back, I'm just going to zoom out a bit so we can see the whole selection and play back. Very nice. Now, what I really like is this low velocity here that makes these sort of dead mutes. So they're a lot more percussive and add some extra character to the sound. So I'm going to select these ones here that I changed to palm mutes. And instead take these and make them dead mutes. So now we've got this. So already this is sounding a lot better. We've got some different articulations, which is giving some different expressiveness and dynamics to the performance. So that's using velocities. So I'm going to take this line tool and just draw over here to make everything back to a high velocity. And what I want to show you now is how you can use articulation switching to do the same thing to switch articulations on the instrument. So if we go back to the instrument, as you can see, we're using this patch. Now, what I want to do is show you how you can use sustains and chugs and use those to sort of switch between the performances. So that's B-0 and the chugs at D0. So to do these switching, I just need to make those notes in the key editor where I want them to switch. So for example, over here, I want to have sustain in the beginning. So I'm just going to take a note, select it, make a copy, and then just make it down to B0. So we have got B-10 there. So that is going to be our sustain. Then this next note here, I want this to be a chug, and the chug is at D0. And then that is going to be a sustain again. Then this is going to be a chug. This is going to be a sustain. It's going to be a chug. And this is going to be a sustain. So for example, if I just solo this guitar, open up the instrument, and play back, so as you can see, that is switching the articulations. So those are the two ways that you can add more expression by changing between the sustains and the palm mutes. You can either do it via velocity, which I find works really well because it's very quick and easy to do, or you can do it by switching articulations by drawing in these lower notes here that's going to switch the articulation on the performance. I want to show you 2 extra things that you can add to your MIDI programmed guitars to make them sound even more real. The first is adding some noise after you release a note. So this is going to give the impression that you're playing a string, and as you release it, you get a bit of noise that's showing you releasing that string. So on this instrument over here, I've got this effects patch down here, which is on E1. And if I play B2, I've got that string noise. So as I play a note, I want to add that straight afterwards. But just to demonstrate this, I'm going to turn off the distortion. Then I'm going to go into the key editor. And if you look here, I'm playing a note, there's a gap. Then I'm playing 2 more notes here, and then there's a gap. So after each note over here where these gaps, I want to add that noise. So I'm going to go down to my key switching over here, and I want to add in the key switching for the articulation, which is going to be E1. So go up here, and that's going to switch it. So we've got E1 there, and then I said that note is B2. So I can just drag this, and we've got that there. So that's going to be our first key switch. Now I'm going to take these and copy them after each note here. So I've got those gaps. I'm just filling it in with that string noise. But also I just need to switch back to the other articulation. So I'm just going to copy that, place it over here. So straight after each one, I'm just going to replace those key switching. So if I play this back now, it sounds like this. If I remove those notes, you can hear what it sounds like without it. So it's very subtle, but as you add that in, you're getting that string noise. So for example, if I add in distortion, before it's like this, and then I add it back in. So it's just a bit of noise that adds a bit more characteristic to the performance. So let me just quickly go through and add this to the rest of them. So it's these over here. I'm just going to copy it there. And add in those articulation notes after each one here so that we are going back there to that first articulation. So then we've got something that sounds like this. So that's just one way of adding some extra realism. I know it's quite subtle, but it definitely adds quite a bit of difference to the performance when you've got those string release noises going through your performance to add some more realism. Now, the next thing I want to show you is using pitch bend to emulate how when you hit a string very hard, it goes slightly sharp and then comes back again. So I'm going to jump to another section over here. So over here, I've got this section. If you go into the MIDI performance, I've got some pitch bend data here. But what I want to do is actually just remove this. So I'm going to take that and remove it. So this is going to be a potential breakdown section of my song, just playing a low note. But what we've got is it's sounding very static with the pitch. So it sounds like this. Now I'm going to go back to where I had that pitch data. If you zoom in, what I've done a pitch bend up to make that note go slightly sharp. So it's on here and on here as well, but not as much. I've just copied that across. So now what we got is this. So before it was like this. And then now with a pitch bend. And then hearing it within context with the rest of the instruments, you've got this. So if I had to take that pitch bend data out, it would sound like this with no pitch bend. And then adding it back in again. So basically, if you really want to get some nice attack from a sound, add some pitch bend data there, and it's going to give the emulation that you're hitting that string really hard and it's going slightly sharp. So that's 2 extra techniques that you can add to your MIDI programming to get your modern metal guitars to really sound realistic.